or I can buy it trimmed down to, say, 1/4 inch. All right, that would be a different spec, right? Would it be a different price if it was trimmed?
Sure.
Right, so that would be a separate HRI cut, right? And then I could buy it without the cap. So I could buy a beef top round cap off. That would be another HRI cut, even though it's still top round, right? Still top round. All three of those are still top round. Just understand that HRI is all the different configurations of that subprimal as well as the original. All right? Don't get too confused by that. And then portion cut would be what? Now we cut a little portion.
Like a steak.
Right, here we go. Here's your portion. Delicious. That's individually cryovac, you know, or maybe cryovac in packages, depending on the company how they configure it. All right, but it's ready to take out of the bag and cook. All right, and we could also buy what we call value-added cuts. Those would be well, value-added is kind of a general term, but a lot of times it might implicate pre-seasoning or even pre-cooking. We could buy this beef top round already roasted as what? Pre-cooked roast beef in a bag. All right, we left all the cooking up to someone else. Some restaurants, some situations might buy that because they don't have time to cook that in-house. I don't know why, but they do. Want to know how they cook them? They take the trim top round, they season it, and they put the roast flavor and caramel color on the outside, and then they put it in a bag and they steam it. Roast. Now, I'm not saying every company that does that does it, but some of them do. Some are better than others. You can taste them. They just taste bland to me. Or salty. All right. Knives. Let's talk about knives before we do any cutting. This is a boning knife. You have a boning knife. Your boning knife is more like this, a straight 6-inch. I think you have somewhat of a flexible boning knife. This is a stiff boning knife. All right. This is the one I use most often. They both have their reasons and purposes, which we'll get into later, but that's a boning knife. 6-inch, they also sell a 5-inch, and you can buy a 10-inch, what they call breaking knife. There's all different knives out there, but this is a typical knife. Then you have, in your kit, you have the slicer. The slicer is an excellent knife for what we do down here. It's thin, as opposed to the chef knife, which is thick. The chef knife is excellent for chopping. It has a nice weight to it. This is much lighter. This is excellent for trimming and cutting portions. The thinner blade enables it to slide through easier without getting caught up or having too much friction. So it's a nice knife choice for down here. And plus it's got a little bit of flex to it. Believe it or not, that's helpful when you're doing cutlets. I personally prefer to use this. This is a scimitar. I've had this knife since I got this knife in '98. This one too. I got them free at the food show. I like them. I haven't worn them out yet, so they're good. I have another one. I have a 6-inch one, but I left this at Fleischer's, where I sometimes hang out and cut meat. What else? I like the little bit of the curve to it. I think that gives me a little advantage as far as angulation. The scallops, I don't know, they're somewhat of a gimmick. But I guess they reduce friction for when I'm really going fast. It's crazy. What else? Cleaver. I use the cleaver from time to time for chopping bone. I never chop on here. I will chop on the big chopping blocks over there. The chopping blocks have grain of wood that goes down and will not chip when I use the cleaver, whereas this table will chip. You do not want to chop on a table like this. But the cleaver is a handy tool to have. A meat cleaver is a lot different than a vegetable cleaver. A meat cleaver is thick and heavy like a hammer, where a vegetable cleaver is light and fast for chopping fast vegetables and maybe chicken and things like that. I don't discount the vegetable cleaver. I have one at home. I just don't bring it in here because it doesn't serve my purpose here. But I do use this from time to time. I also have a saw. This is our hand saw. They make smaller ones, different sizes of this. but it's a handy tool to have in the kitchen. If you do not have a bandsaw, which I do not necessarily suggest you get a bandsaw for your restaurant, you should at least think about getting a handsaw if you're going to do any sort of butchering on site. It makes cutting up the bones a lot easier. This is my hook. I use this when I'm breaking down larger cuts of meat. Alright? So that's the knife that I suggest. I mean, if you really want to abbreviate your kit, all you really need is your boning knife and your slicer. If you're more comfortable using that chef knife, that's fine too. I know you've been using your chef knife. That's okay. But realize the advantage of the slicer. If you have any of your other own knives that you want to bring in, you know, that's fine. I don't care. You don't have to use the kit. This is the steel. How do you use a steel? Did you learn this? Yes. Like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. I was taught to do it this way. And now I do it like this. That's just how I do it. And people are like, well, you're going against the group. Get all upset. I'm like, look, I'm shining my edge up. That's all I'm doing. Right now, all I'm doing is shining the edge. You know what I mean by that? You're sprucing up the edge. You're taking away any of the burrs. It's got little tiny lines. They don't say one way only. Here in the school, though, they want you to do it like this. So do what they say, and then when you're out there, you grow a big beard and go like this. The first thing people do when they leave here, they grow a big beard, and they take the steel and they do it the way they like it. But that's the way I do it. That's why they keep me in the cell. One more reason. All right. Sharpening your knives, you have, did Lena explain the stones that are out here? Those are good stones. I personally use a water stone that's 4,000 grit. I only use the water stone on my knives now. I just like it. I don't let my knives get dull. I keep them, you know, up to snuff, so to speak. If they get dull, I make sure I really go over them well and bring them back to life. But don't let your knife get dull. You're just starting out. Your edge isn't your edge yet. My edge is my edge. I built this bevel. It's fairly wide. I flatten my knives out when I sharpen. I've been going away from the stone like this as opposed to into the stone. I just find it better for some reason. You develop your own technique. I mean, I can certainly show you how to sharpen. Maybe we'll do a knife sharpening later on the week, but you need to develop your own style and practice it and get a good sharp edge. It is somewhat personal. Sharpen at 20 degrees. Have you ever seen anyone bring out a protractor and check the angle? No. I have never seen that. I sharpen my own skis by hand. You know what I mean? Like using a file, a flat file. And I've never used any sort of tool that tells me what the angle is. I just go by, wow, that's sharp. And I ski like down all kinds of icy crap and go, it's a... All right. This is a shank. All right, we're going to take this off like so. Right in here, we have the what we call the gambrel cord. This is collagen. All right, you see how white it is? This is connective tissue. If I was to put this in a pot and simmer it, this would break down. This would become gelatinous. I'd be able to slice right through and eat it. It'd be palatable almost. In fact, it can be used in making soups. All right, so that's collagen. It's white in this sense. Here, we have collagen that's clear, like a membrane. Right? That's collagen also, but clear. Right? That's a very thin version of that same thing. And then, more typical, you would see collagen being silver, as you see there. See the silver skin? So collagen can be silver, clearish, or white, all right, depending on its thickness. Most of us think of collagen as silver skin, where we'd have to trim it off the outside of a tenderloin or something like that. All right? But collagen breaks down in the moist cooking. It dissolves. It becomes gelatinous, right?